Number 1, Walter Hagen. When golf was still finding its identity as a professional sport, Walter Hagen created the first dynasty. Before him, the game was considered mostly an amateur's pursuit, dominated by country club gentlemen. Hagen didn't just compete with amateurs, he beat them, embarrassed them, and then celebrated in a way that made golf something the masses wanted to watch. Between 1914 and 1929, Hagen captured 11 major championships. His crown jewel was the PGA Championship, which he won 4 years in a row from 1924 to 1927. That streak alone still stands as one of the toughest records in golf, especially since the event was match play in those days. Going head-to-head with the best and beating them repeatedly gave Hagen a ruthless edge that defined his reign. It was the way he carried himself. He traveled with style, wore tailored suits, and acted as though golf should be glamorous. That attitude separated him from his peers. At a time when many professionals were treated like second-class citizens compared to amateurs, Hagen forced respect, built a career where the game had to adapt to him, not the other way around. On the course, Hagen was streaky. When he locked in, nobody matched him. His Ryder Cup presence added to his legend, but it was his ability to turn golf into a professional showcase that created the first true dynasty. If dynasties are about more than wins, about reshaping the sport's place and culture, Hagen's run checks every box. Number 2, Ben Hogan. After Hagen came the age of Ben Hogan, a man who turned control into dominance. If Hagen was golf's entertainer, Hogan was its machine. His dynasty burned brightest in the late 1940s and early 1950s, capped by his remarkable 1953 season. Hogan's numbers tell the story. 9 major championships, 64 PGA Tour wins, and in 1953 alone, he won the Masters, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship, the Triple Crown of golf. He didn't enter the PGA Championship that year because the travel schedule made it impossible, but many still argue that if he had played, he could have swept all 4 majors. What separated Hogan was precision. He was called the Wee Iceman because of his cold demeanor under pressure, and his swing became the model for generations. His ball striking was so consistent that courses seemed smaller when he was playing them. He knew exactly where the ball would go, and he demanded that level of control from himself every single round. Hogan's dynasty also carried drama. In 1949, he survived a near-fatal car accident, with doctors doubting he'd walk again, let alone play competitive golf. Then, just 4 years later, he delivered the greatest season of his career. That comeback gave his dominance a mythical quality, not just skill, but resilience at a level few athletes in any sport have matched. Hogan's dynasty didn't have the flashy charisma of Palmer or the decades-long reign of Nicklaus, but it changed golf's technical foundation. Every serious player studied Hogan's swing, and his philosophy of precision remains part of the game's DNA. Number 3, Arnold Palmer. If Hogan represented discipline and control, Arnold Palmer brought flair and charisma. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Palmer created a dynasty that wasn't only about winning, it's about connection. He made golf entertaining for television audiences. His aggressive style turned every shot into drama. Palmer won 7 majors between 1958 and 1964. His peak included 4 Masters victories, 2 Open championships, and a U.S. Open, but his dynasty was bigger than the numbers. He played golf as though every shot mattered, charging at pins when others laid back, and his fans, the Arnie's Army, loved him for it. Television was just starting to shape sports in the 1960s, and Palmer was its first golf superstar. His personality translated perfectly on screen, making him not just a winner, but a household name. He signed endorsements, traveled the world, and showed that golf could have rock stars. It didn't last as long as Nicklaus's, but for a 6-year stretch, he owned the spotlight. He carried himself like a man who knew he was changing the sport, and he did. Without Palmer, the PGA Tour may never have grown into the global stage it became. Number 4, Jack Nicklaus. No dynasty in golf lasted longer or felt more inevitable than Jack Nicklaus's. In the early 1960s through the mid-1980s, Nicklaus was the standard. 18 major championships, 73 PGA Tour victories, countless close calls where his name sat near the top of leaderboards, even when he didn't win. What made Nicklaus's dynasty overwhelming was his ability to adapt. Early in his career, he was the young powerhouse chasing down Palmer. Later, he became the wily veteran outdueling Tom Watson. After 2 decades, he faced waves of challengers: Player, Trevino, Watson, Miller, and outlasted all of them. Nicklaus had a mental edge that crushed opponents. He knew when to peak, and he saved his best for the majors. While others racked up smaller tournament wins, Nicklaus made the majors his personal playground. The 1986 Masters, when he won at 46 years old, wasn't just a victory. It was the exclamation point on a dynasty that had already stretched farther than anyone thought possible. Courses had to get longer and tougher just to stand a chance against him. Crowds grew because fans knew if Nicklaus was playing, they were watching history. It was a reign of excellence so complete that no one has touched it yet. Every player who comes after, from Woods to McIlroy and now maybe Scheffler, is measured against his 18 majors. It isn't just a record, it's a mountain that defines what greatness in golf looks like. Number 5, Tom Watson. Tom Watson wasn't supposed to succeed. Early in his career, he was labeled as someone who couldn't finish. Then he turned that criticism into fuel and went on to become the defining player of the late 1970s and early 1980s. From 1977 to 1983, Watson collected 8 majors, 5 of them at the Open, where he proved better than anyone at taming the challenges of links golf. While American stars often struggled in the unpredictable wind and weather of the UK, Watson thrived. His ability to control flight and improvise under shifting conditions gave him an edge no one else could match. His moment with Jack Nicklaus at Turnberry in 1977, the duel in the sun, remains one of golf's purest battles. For 36 holes, they went shot for shot, Watson finally edging out Nicklaus with a birdie at the last. That victory was more than a trophy. It was the transfer of power from one generation to the next. Watson wasn't flashy in the way Palmer had been, but he was ruthlessly efficient. His calm presence, especially under the hardest setups, defined his reign. And even decades later, at nearly 60 years old, he almost stole another Open title in 2009. That near win proved his control of links golf had never left him. Number 6, Tiger Woods. Tiger didn't just win, he ripped apart every ceiling golf thought it had. His 1997 Masters victory by 12 shots wasn't just a triumph, it was a declaration that the sport was about to change forever. Over the next decade, Woods transformed into a one-man force that was top of every tournament, every TV rating, every fan conversation. Between 1999 and 2008, Woods won 13 majors. He didn't just pick off trophies, he dominated the fairways. In the 2000 U.S. Open, he won by 15 shots, the largest margin in major history. At the Open later that year, he held every single round in the 60s and completed the career Grand Slam at age 24. By 2001, he achieved the unthinkable, holding all 4 major titles at the same time, something that had never been done before in modern golf. Every player knew that if Tiger was anywhere near the top of the leaderboard, the event belonged to him. Crowds swelled to sizes golf had never seen, and courses stretched themselves longer in a desperate attempt to withstand his power. Even when injuries and personal struggles interrupted his run, he came back to remind everyone what he was capable of. The 2008 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, played with torn knee ligaments, remains one of the most heroic performances in sports history. What made it even more incredible was that he didn't just win after 4 rounds, he had to go through an extra 18-hole playoff on Monday. Barely able to walk and wincing after nearly every shot, he still found a way to dig deep and come out on top. It was toughness in its rawest form and one of golf's greatest ever wins. That victory didn't just add another trophy to the case, it added to the legend of a dynasty being built in real time. Fast forward more than a decade and Tiger would deliver another unforgettable moment, but this time for a very different reason. His 2019 Masters win was just as shocking because so many believed his time at the top was finished. It marked his first major championship in 11 years, came after personal struggles and a serious back injury that almost ended his career. Many thought he'd never compete at the highest level again, yet he fought his way back and won his 5th green jacket. What made it even more special was that his children were there to see him win, something he'd dreamed about for years. That Sunday at Augusta wasn't just a victory, it was the ultimate redemption story and one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. Together, those 2 triumphs, Torrey Pines in 2008 and Augusta in 2019, are cornerstones of Tiger's PGA Dynasty. They proved that his greatness wasn't just about dominance in his prime, but also about resilience, longevity, and the ability to rise when everyone else had counted him out. Tiger Woods didn't just change golf, he built a legacy the sport and the world will remember forever. Number 7, Phil Mickelson. And while Tiger's dominance defined an era, Phil Mickelson carved out a dynasty of his own, one built not on overwhelming power, but on adaptability, creativity, and longevity. Left-handed, inventive and unpredictable, Mickelson became a constant presence from the late 1990s to the 2010s. For years, he carried the label of best player without a major, until that burden lifted at the 2004 Masters when he drained an 18-foot birdie putt on the final hole to beat Ernie Els. The leap he made in celebration wasn't just a release of pressure, it marked the beginning of a career that would deliver 6 majors and more than 40 PGA Tour victories. Mickelson's style set him apart. While others relied on precision, he thrived on imagination. Flop shots over trees, risky approaches, and daring recoveries defined his game. Sometimes it backfired, but when it worked, it produced unforgettable moments. In 2021, at 50 years old, he stunned the golf world by winning the PGA Championship at Kiowa Island, becoming the oldest major champion in history. That win wasn't just another trophy, it was proof that even in a sport increasingly ruled by younger power hitters, Mickelson could still rise to the occasion. Phil's career wasn't about relentless dominance like Tiger's, it was about endurance, staying relevant across 3 decades, competing with Woods in the early 2000s, then outlasting players half his age 2 decades later. His staying power and creativity ensured that while Tiger's dynasty redefined the game, Mickelson's parallel journey gave golf one of his most enduring and memorable careers. Together, their overlapping legacies pushed the sport into a golden age the PGA will never forget. Number 8, Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy entered the scene with the weight of expectations, and for a while he lived up to every single one. His breakthrough came in the 2011 U.S. Open, where he rebounded from a collapse at the Masters just 2 months earlier. At Congressional, he didn't just win, he destroyed the course, finishing 8 shots clear and breaking scoring records in the process. Over the next 3 years, McIlroy added 3 more majors: the 2012 PGA Championship, the 2014 Open Championship, and the 2014 PGA Championship. At that point, he had 4 majors at age 25, a pace that drew comparisons to Nicklaus and Woods. His power off the tee, paired with a fluid swing, made him look unbeatable when he was on. For Ireland, McIlroy's rise was more than personal success. It was a dynasty in motion. He carried the pride and weight of an entire country, becoming the face of Irish golf and a global star at the same time. Every dip in form was magnified, every win scrutinized, but through it all he remained a constant force at the top of the game. Even when the majors stopped flowing after 2014, McIlroy's consistency never faded. He captured the FedEx Cup 3 times, in 2016, 2019, and 2022, the only player to do it that many times. He also won the Players' Championship twice, first in 2019 and then again in 2025, grinding out a dramatic 3-hole playoff victory at TPC Sawgrass. And most importantly, 2025 finally brought the crowning moment he'd chased for over a decade. McIlroy slipped on the green jacket at Augusta, winning the Masters to complete the career Grand Slam. That made him only the 6th golfer in history and the first European to win all 4 majors. Even without a steady stream of new majors, he sustained excellence, from dominating FedEx Cups to clutch wins at the Players, all while carrying the hopes of Irish golf. Keeps Rory McIlroy firmly in the conversation as one of the greatest modern players. Number 9, Dustin Johnson. From 2016 through 2020, he wasn't just great at the big ones, he was consistent everywhere. Johnson has always been a freak talent with length off the tee and a smooth, repeatable swing, but it wasn't until this stretch that he put it all together. 2016 was a breakthrough. He captured the U.S. Open at Oakmont, one of the toughest courses on earth, shaking off years of near misses and heartbreak. That opened the floodgates. Over the next 4 years, he won nearly everything worth winning. He reached world number 1 and stayed there for over 100 weeks, the longest streak since. Then came 2020 at Augusta National. Johnson had been close at the Masters before, but this time he destroyed the field. His winning score of 20 under set a tournament record. That moment felt like the capstone of his run, the proof that he wasn't just a consistent winner, but a player who could rise to historic heights when the opportunity came. What separated Johnson in this era was a mix of power and patience. He wasn't a fiery personality, he was calm, even flat at times, which some mistook for indifference. That demeanor was a weapon. While others cracked under pressure, Johnson carried himself like he was hitting balls on the range. That coolness turned near misses into wins, and it helped him stay on top of the sport for half a decade. His move to LIV golf in 2022 pulled him out of the PGA Tour spotlight, but by then the record was written. Between 2016 and 2020, he was the standard of consistency, the one everyone else measured themselves against. Even Tiger himself called Johnson's 2020 Masters victory clinical. It was the kind of stretch that may not carry the raw drama of Tiger's peak, but it proved that Johnson owned the game in a quieter, relentless way. Number 10, Brooks Koepka. For a long time, Brooks Koepka wasn't even seen as a headliner. He had to grind on the Challenge Tour in Europe just to prove he belonged. Once he caught fire, the sport bent around him in a way very few could manage. From 2017 to 2019, he looked untouchable in the biggest events. He won back-to-back U.S. Opens in 2017 and 2018, something no one had done since Curtis Strange in the late 80s. Then he added back-to-back PGA championships in 2018 and 2019. 4 majors in 3 years. That kind of burst is rare in any sport, and it put him in conversations normally reserved for Jack, Tiger, and Hogan. What made it even more brutal for opponents was the way he did it. Koepka wasn't piling up wins at regular tour stops. He built his entire schedule around peaking for majors. Some critics even accuse him of coasting through the smaller events, but when the lights hit, his power, calmness, and fearlessness on tough setups set him apart. He handled pressure like it was background noise, often staring down elite names like Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, and Tiger Woods on Sunday afternoons. Injuries slowed him after 2019, forcing him through knee surgeries and slipping down the world rankings. But just when it seemed like the run was over, he made a statement. In 2023, he captured his 3rd PGA championship, proving that when he's healthy, he still has the gears to dominate. That comeback overlapped with his controversial move to LIV Golf, which only heightened the spotlight. Whatever people think of that league, Koepka's ability to reestablish himself at the highest level during all that chaos cemented his place as one of the most dangerous major players of his generation. And while Koepka has shown how a career can be built almost entirely around major championships, there's another storyline now running alongside his legacy. Scottie Scheffler starting to carve out a dynasty of his own. Fast forward to 2025, he's already collected 4 majors, the Masters in 2022 and 2024, the PGA Championship in 2025, and the Open Championship this year too. He added a FedEx Cup crown in 2024, closing out the Tour Championship with authority, and made history at the Players Championship with back-to-back titles in 23 and 24, something no one had ever done before. His dominance across every kind of stage has people wondering just how far he can go. If the next decade belongs to anyone, it might just be Scheffler. And the question is how high he can climb in golf's all-time lore.